One of Monster's most defining features about it, besides the combat and world, has always been the creatures that inhabit it. Not only do you have the stereotypical dragons that are still cool, but you've also got Super Saiyan monkeys, extreme omnivore T-Rexes, a mossy camel with a hammer for a tail, xenomorph dragons that are the little incarnations of the Black Plague, and so much more that I can't even mention in this video. But Capcom doesn't just make these monsters just to look cool or be monsters, but to feel breathing, alive, like a part of the ecosystem and world around it. Even some of the more outrageous monsters out there like Dalamadur have details about their appearance and lore that makes them fit in as a part of the world. Every single detail for a monster is used to build up its identity. How it fits in, how it survives, and how it lives. Simple details like movements, gestures, and attack patterns tell us a lot about how these monsters work. And while I love all these monsters, okay, well, not all, there has always been one that has stuck at the back of my mind as a mystery. The Ceadeus. Besides just being the monster that got me into the series, it also has an intriguing battle, design, amazing theme, and strong motif with it. Yet, despite all the things I know about it, there is one thing I didn't. What is the Ceadeus actually? No, seriously, some say that it's a whale, some say that it's a dragon, and some say that it's a goat whale. I mean, have you seen that beard? It's fantastic. While all these explanations may explain its odd design compared to its elder dragon brethren, it's not what I'm truly after. What I'm truly after is what Ceadeus represents in the world of Monster and in our world, as well as the inspiration and symbolism behind it. Well, today, we're going to figure it out. So grab your ancient helmets, Shakalaka companions, and your hunting gear, and let us take a dive underwater to the ancient ruins to find out what Ceadeus truly is, what it means, and the origins behind it. So, let's start simple with what we know about it. Ceadeus' name is translated from the Japanese word for Nabaru Diusu, which is simplified as Navel Deus. The English name is made up of two parts. The first part is rooted in English and is pronounced as sea, while Deus is rooted in Latin origins and means deity or god. So, sea god. Alright you guys, hope you've enjoyed this video and in covering the truth about Ceadeus. See you next time! Okay, sorry about that. Moving on. So, what else can we gather from Ceadeus? Well, as many people have already pointed out, Ceadeus' design seemed to be inspired by various species of aquatic animals. Its head is based heavily off the Dunkleosteus, an extinct species of armor-jawed fishes that lived during the late Devonian period, most likely about 358 to 382 million years ago, while the rest of its body shape seems to be heavily inspired by whales. Which species of whales, however, we don't know, but if someone would like to point it out in the comment section below what species it is, it would be greatly appreciated. But I'd say that the connection is pretty clear. Not only does it have whale-like features in its face, body, and fins, but also most obviously in its tail. I mean, it straight up even looks like a whale tail, even if it is a slightly more curved, downward tail. But this isn't just a video talking about what Ceadeus is in terms of design, it's about exploring the symbolism of Ceadeus. So to understand the symbolism of the monster, we need to understand the symbolism of its inspirations. So what do whales stand for? Well, whales are associated by people as creatures of compassion, solitude, possibly due to how rarely Ceadeus is seen and where it lives, being knowledgeable in the cycle of life and death, and representing unbridled creativity. And it has been commonly thought of by many people, especially Polynesian people, that the sounds that a whale makes symbolizes a creative force of life. Weird, huh? What a strange attribute for a whale to represent. Life and death? Why life? And why would an aquatic animal not just represent life, but the creative forces behind it and death? To understand how this connects with Ceadeus and how it fits, we need to look at the other important inspirations behind Ceadeus. So for now, let's tack the whale point onto the board. Keep it in mind for later. Now then, let's talk about Ceadeus' most obvious inspiration behind it, the moon. In pop culture, the moon is seen as a feminine symbol, being often thought of as the female counterpart to the sun. It is considered beautiful, graceful, elegant, the representative of the rhythm of time, immortality, eternity throughout its many phases, and being the dark side of Mother Nature. It is the middle ground between the daylight of the sun and the pitch black darkness of the night, thus being seen as a representation of the realm between consciousness and unconsciousness. There's also the idea of how it represents the human soul in astrology, and the horoscope uses it to identify a person's capacity for self-reflection and adaptation. However, that's not all the symbolism the moon has behind it, because that's only the basic ideas of it. As it so turns out, each phase of the moon represents a different analogy of human development. So, to put it shortly, the new moon is infancy, the crescent is adolescence, full moon is immaturity and pregnancy, and the waning is the declining of life, sleep. Now, while all this may seem confusing and may not seem like it fits in with the whale symbolism from earlier, it actually fits in smoother than some would think. Because, let's think about it. What else represents and fits in with human development, including all the stages of it? The cycle of life and death. From the beginning of your existence, your birth, to your adolescence and maturity, aging, and finally, the declining of life, death. It all just makes sense. And according to Myth Encyclopedia, some ancient Greek sects thought that the moon was the home of the dead, and that early Hindus believed that the souls of the dead returned from the moon to await rebirth. It should also be worth knowing that the Tatars, a group of Turkic-speaking people living in Asia and Europe, also considered the moon as the queen of life and death. Oh, one last thing to point out in terms of moon symbolism is the name of the music that plays when you fight Ceadeus. The first phase is titled as the Lunar Abyss, and the second is titled as Moonquake. The name of the first phase's music is obvious enough, seeing as how Ceadeus is often called the Shining Giants of the Depths, and being referred to as a moon in the water. But what about Moonquake? That has to be a made-up name, right? Wrong! Believe it or not, moonquakes are a real-life phenomenon. Moonquakes are considered the lunar equivalent of earthquakes, and, much like its earthly counterpart, moonquakes come in 4 different strengths. These 4 strengths include shallow moonquakes, thermal, meteor impact vibrations, and deep moonquakes. While moonquakes are weaker than earthquakes in terms of power, moonquakes can last up to an hour due to the lack of moisture to dampen the seismic vibrations. Not only does this fit with Ceadeus on the whole moon motif, but also plays into its role within the story, being that of a literal earthquake. And yes, I do know that Ceadeus is an actual earthquake and that its role in the story is opposite to the name of the second phase music. But remember that moonquakes and earthquakes are both classified as quakes, and that moonquakes are, well, just the moon's equivalent to them. While Agaiacris may be the original culprit for the quakes at first, it is revealed by a little friend Cha-Cha over here that Ceadeus is actually the one behind it, and it does this by ramming its massive, overgrown horn into the seafloor in an attempt to alleviate the pain. The earthquakes begin to get so bad later on that the guild actually had to evacuate everyone in the village before the Ceadeus sunk the village under the waves, even requesting you, the hunter who was sent here to deal with the issue, to resign off of duty for the moment. Of course, you go against orders and actually succeed in driving off the Ceadeus, but think about that for a sec. A simple rub against the ocean floor with its overgrown horn is enough to cause a tsunami earthquake combo. That is ridiculous. And I think that just goes to show the danger and power of the elder dragons like this. They aren't evil. They aren't intentionally destroying anything. They have no malicious intention. It's just that they happen to be walking natural disasters, hurting everyone and everything around them. This just goes to truly show how Ceadeus is a moon in the water. How a simple rub against the ocean floor of its horns is capable of causing earthquakes. So I think it's pretty solid evidence to say that Ceadeus is heavily inspired by the moon. But there's another part of the mythology behind Ceadeus that we need to cover. So for now, let's tack on all this moon talk onto the board. At first, I and many other people wouldn't think that there was much mythology behind Ceadeus. I mean, there wasn't much to go for in terms of its design or fight connected to mythology, and the weapons and armor don't do that job either, going for a more Viking vibe and all. But then, everything changed when I beat Goldbeard in Monster Free Ultimate G rank, saw its Blade Master armor, and boom! Something immediately went off in my head. Does it look familiar to you? It should. If you've ever visited a museum or have ever studied or even learned a bit of Egyptian mythology, then you would know immediately what this armor looks like. And for those who don't, let me put up this picture. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Egyptian deity Anubis, guardian of the dead, and embalmment, the process of turning someone into a mummy. And Anubis wasn't just a minor god or deity. No, he was one of the most important deities in Egyptian mythology. Originally, Anubis was a child of Ra and Set, but was later changed for him to be the child of Osiris/Set and Nephthys. It is important to know that Nephthys was the goddess of death, lamentation, service, nighttime, and rivers, while Osiris is the god of life, death, afterlife, and rebirth. May all seem weird to point out deities and their importance of what they are when really we're talking about Anubis, but don't worry, don't worry. It's all going to make sense soon. You just hang in there. It's all confusing at first, I know, but trust me, it'll all make sense. So, why exactly is the armor being based off of Anubis important? Well, we need to know what an Anubis is based off of. Anubis' design resembles that of a human with the head of a jackal, also known as the African golden wolf, dogs who are often seen around the dead and were known as scavengers of flesh and bodies, often eating them. So, in order to counteract the dead being eaten, the Egyptians decided to fight fire with fire. Not literally, of course. And a jackal was used to protect and watch over the dead. While he was replaced by Osiris as the most important god of the dead later on, Anubis still remains an important part of the afterlife. After the embalming process has been done, the dead move on to the afterlife of Anubis, guiding the new souls to Horus, all the while watching over the judgment process to ensure the weighing of the heart was conducted correctly. So, he is still retained as an important part of Egyptian mythology. But the weirdest part about the armor is the decision for the main color, black. Want to know what black is associated with? Fertility. Strange, huh? An Egyptian god of death being associated with fertility. Life, of all things. It's strange. Until you consider that death and fertility are closely related to the cycle of rebirth. There it is again. The cycle of rebirth. Life, death, the afterlife, and rebirth. But we can get even more specific when we take into consideration the name of the armor set. The name of the male armor takes after the name of the Greek god Helios, god of the sun, while the female armor takes on the name of Selene, goddess of the moon, whose name is related to Celis, meaning brightness. But wait. We just talked about Egyptian mythology a few seconds ago, so why are we talking about Greek now? Well, what if I told you there was an actual connection between the Greek gods and actual people who lived in Egypt? Meet Alexandria Helios, born possibly between 29 and 25 BC, eldest son of Queen Cleopatra VII and would be a Ptolemaic prince. Oh yeah, and should I mention that he had a fraternal twin sister named Cleopatra Selene II? Sir Helios here was made the ruler of Armenia, Media, Parthia, and any country between the Euphrates and Indus River, two very important rivers that become the center of power for civilizations like the Indus River Valley civilization. Keep this in mind for later. And if you're still skeptical about the Egyptian and Greek connection, It should be important to note that during the Ptolemaic period, when Egypt was ruled by Greek pharaohs, that Anubis merged with the Greek god Hermes, creating Hermanubis, mostly due to the fact that both deities guided souls to the afterlife in one way or another. Anubis was also associated with Ceadeus in the heavens, and Cerberus and Hades in the underworld, with Plato often having Ceadeus utter oaths that say, by the dog of Egypt, and by the dog, the god of the Egyptians, to appeal to Anubis as an arbiter of truth in the underworld. So yeah, there's some more mythology connections between the two. Oh, and in case if you're wondering about what the gunner armor is, take a look at its head. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the sun disk worn on the head of Isis, wife of Osiris and goddess of winds, beer, abundance, magic, death, temporarily, life, and much more. So bam! We're done with this video. We gathered all the evidence we need, right? I mean, we gathered evidence from whales and what they symbolize, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, and the moon symbolism. So we're done, right? Well, not exactly. In order to get the bigger picture of what Ceadeus is, we need to look at an aspect of Ceadeus that define the third generation as a whole. Now then, if I were to ask people what the most defining change and addition the third generation had was, most people would immediately say the underwater combat. And they would be right. Underwater combat was introduced as this big, new way of hunting, allowing verticality and more unique level design, along with monsters that wouldn't have been possible before then, and if it could, not in the way it was in Try. Now, whether or not the combat was good or bad can be debated for days, and it's not something I'm going to get into for now, but the important part was that it was a new mechanic to shake up the gameplay. And that's all it is, right? Something added on just to bring in a sense of verticality. Well, yes, you're correct on the term that it was brought in to give a sense of verticality until the fourth generation. What if I told you that it wasn't just a gameplay mechanic? What if the underwater combat was also used to flesh out the symbolism of Ceadeus, even the third generation as a whole? Trust me, it's not as crazy as it sounds. Now here's another question. If I were to ask you the first thing or image that popped up in your head when it comes to what water means in pop culture, what would you think of? If you had been keeping up and were noticing a theme from the previous two pieces of symbolism, then you would most likely thought of church baptisms and rituals. And you know what? You would be correct on that. While all cultures and religions around the world may have tiny differences when it comes to water, they all share a common theme. Even in the 5 major religions, the meaning of it is pretty clear across the board. Water represents an entwined connection between not just all of our physical bodies, but also our spiritual bodies. It symbolizes purity, cleanliness, and creation. As not only does it have the ability to clean our bodies of physical messes like dirt and sand, but it was also thought to be capable of cleansing our spiritual bodies. That's why we see events like baptisms and church ceremonies use water as a cleanser, because in religions like Christianity, baptizing yourself in water means that you're cleaning your body not just of your physical ailments, but your sins as well. It is a symbol of when someone wants to clear away the mess on their body, not just physically, but spiritually. That's why you see so many religious pictures, especially from the Bible, use water symbolism as a healing agent. Even before then, water was always thought of as this miracle spirit cleaner. That's why civilizations like Egypt and the Indus River Valley civilization considered water so highly. Yeah, remember those guys? Water in itself is an essential part of life. Our bodies are 57 to 78% water. 71% of our planet is water, and our bodies need water to stay alive, or else we get dehydrated and die from a lack of it. Entire civilizations depend on water to survive, and due to its supposed mystical properties, it was connected to things like spirits and the afterlife, like how Greek sects thought how the moon was where the spirits of the dead went to rest, and how the moon just so happens to be the conductor of how waves happen on Earth, or how Nephthys, mother of Anubis, is a goddess of rivers, and how Alexandria Helios was made the ruler of any country between the Euphrates and the Indus River, and how Egypt and its underworld was based around the Nile River, and how— OW! What was that for? Oh, I was starting to go a little insane there. The point I'm trying to get at with this whole rambling about the connections water has to the cycle of life is how it is symbolism as a whole for 3rd generation and Ceadeus. Not only is water a mechanic in the game, but entire new areas, villages, and monsters are dedicated to this powerful force in our world. Water in itself isn't just some powerful force in our world, like say wind and fire is. It is life incarnate. Whether you believe in the theory of evolution or not, or whether you really do believe it has spirit cleansing powers, there is no doubt that water has had a major role in how we live. We as a species depend on it for life, needing it to sustain our bodies. Entire parts of our civilization is centered around water and its uses, hence why we have aquaculture and irrigation. And it is a home for all manners of creatures, big and small. Water is life. And what better mechanic to bring into a generation that's supposed to give a new breath of air, a new breath of life into Monster Hunter, than to include water as its main setting and its main gameplay mechanic. By now, I think it's pretty clear what Ceadeus means. From the odd whale symbolism, to the Egyptian and Greek mythos ties, to even the symbolism of where it lives, all of it points to the common theme of the cycle of life. And if you're still skeptical about all this, which I bet very little of you are, but I have to act like this to make myself look smarter, then let me show you one thing. One tiny, minute, little detail on Ceadeus that I bet none of you noticed. Here, let me show you. What? Don't see it? Okay. Take a look again at this spot, but at a closer viewpoint. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Ankh. One of the most ancient symbols from Egyptian mythology. A symbol so mysterious that not even its origins is known for sure. The Ankh goes by a few nicknames, such as the Key of Life and the Cross of Life. But it doesn't just represent life. It represents the looping cycle of life, both on Earth and in the afterlife. By this point, we have uncovered everything to know about Ceadeus in terms of its design, its symbolism, and its inspirations. But once again, there is one more fact to fit into this puzzle. Ugh. So, is it from its design, or anything we've covered already? Surprisingly enough, no. In all 3 of the areas we've covered, it's already complete. Instead of looking at the ground of what we already know, we need to look beneath the waves, at the remains of an ancient civilization that sunk to the bottom of the ocean. While we don't know for sure whether or not this civilization was even human, or whether or not it was part of the already talked about ancient civilization, what we do know is that this group of people were the ancestors to the chief and to the present Moga village, possessing highly advanced technology. Technology that is far more advanced than what the current monster world has. Not only did this civilization build the entire underwater ruins, with possibly one of the most advanced Dragonators in the world, which uses pressurized water and force instead of any fuel to push out the Dragonator, but they were also thought to have made suits of armor that would not only allow them to breathe indefinitely, but would also include moving or mechanical functions in the suit. As suggested by the ancient mask you have to mandatorily get for Cha-Cha to even get to the underwater ruins. Not only does it allow Cha-Cha to breathe indefinitely and create oxygen bubbles for hunters, but there was also the fact that we didn't even make this thing from hand, which suggests that the mask may have lost some of its original functionality after being left alone to rust for so many years. But even in its incomplete state, it is capable of producing infinite oxygen. Even the most highly advanced diving gear and oxygen tanks we have can only produce and hold so much oxygen, forcing the wearer to eventually breach back up to the surface. So knowing that an incomplete version of her technology is capable of producing infinite oxygen is insane. But the most interesting thing about the civilization was its unique ceremonies of prayer. This quote is taken directly from the official Hunter's Encyclopedia Free, which, by the way, this official Hunters series was also the one to reveal the concept art behind the ancient civilization and the equal dragon weapon. The quote goes a little something like this: "We ask of the meaning of life. We ask of the image of life. Now, let us give birth to a new song. The sound of the sea is the chain of life, resonating with life, hailing the earth, the liberty of life, the harmony of the sun. It is the song that connects us all. The voice of the sea is the melody of life, the tune of life, the beat of the earth, the breath of life, the harmony of sun. It is a song that we all sing. All will chant, wishing for will and heart. All will raise their instruments, imagination, desire, and thought. A new song birthed within us all." The message is clear now. This civilization worshipped Ceadeus, not just as a monster, not just as a force of nature, but as the god of life, a creature that not just represents the moon and water, not just life, but the cycle as a whole. And now, we truly know what Ceadeus is and what it stands for. And it is clear as day. Life is a precious gift, and its guardian encompasses all aspects of it. It is the nurturing mother who gives life, and it is the watcher who judges the soul. It is the middle ground between the light of the sun and the darkness of the sky. It is the sun and the moon. It is life and it is death. It is birth and it is rebirth. Respect the guardian of life and all those who live, or be swept under the waves, forever lost, just like those before you. Hey guys, Monarch of Dragons here. Sorry that this video had to take such a long time to be made. Trust me, school got in the way and it is a jerk. But hopefully you enjoyed this and the kind of creepy turn it took at the end. This stuff is very interesting to me. I am a huge fan of mythology and I could not just help making an episode on this. So anyway, let me know in the comment section what you have learned, what you thought of the video, and whether you would like to see more of these symbolism videos in the future. And it may not just be on Monster Hunter, it may be on a few more franchises and their symbolism. And while we're at it, why not check out the links in the description below to go check out my other playlists. I am currently doing a playthrough of Bloodborne, and why not check out and follow my Twitter, which you can keep up to date with what I'm doing outside of YouTube. And if you're really feeling it, then you can go check out the official Monarch of Dragons Discord, which is in the link of the description below. That has been all for this video. I hope you guys have a fantastic day / night, wherever you live. Peace.